Hi, I'm Derek, and when I'm not working on the hook for Joe's mom's next greatest rap album, I'm stacking Benjamins, baby.
Live from Joe's mom's basement, it's the Stacking Benjamin Show. I'm Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug, and we're packing up. It appears the people of Globe, Arizona are saying goodbye to good old neighbor Doug. And while I compose myself to tell you and Joe's mom my tale, on today's show, let's talk about empathy. A recent Harvard Business Review piece says there's one key to empathy, and we'll share it on today's show. To help us learn how to cope, we welcome Angela from the Tread Lightly, Retire Early blog. And from this podcast, say hello again to OG. And finally, from lenpenzo.com, it's the talking horse, Mr. Ed. Nah, he went and hit the hay, so it's just his lookalike, Len Penzo. Think that's all? Oh no, think again, because during our Friday Fintech segment, we'll introduce you to a new app that might be a good tool to help you better understand your money. To tell us about Copilot, we'll chat with founder Andres Ugarte. Of course, we'll take time to magnify a lucky someone's money, and I'll toss out one last round for the road of my Arizona-themed trivia. And now, another guy who won't be missed in Globe. It's Joe Saul-Sehy.
Well, it was fun while it lasted, but Doug got in trouble again. More on that later, but man, do we have a great show today. Sitting across the card table from me, though, for another Friday to help us kick off the weekend is Mr. OG.
I can't believe that in the town of Globe, Doug figured out a way to get in trouble.
Within 2 weeks. Within 2 weeks and we're gone. Yeah.
You're out of there.
Mom's packing up now, and it's over. And
another town that Doug can't be in.
Speaking of Doug, a guy that was an outcast in Los Angeles, so he dug himself a tunnel and said, get me out of it. I dare you. It's Len Penzo from lenpenzo.com.
You know what? Doug is welcome in my bunker anytime.
Oh, boy.
Joe.
You have no idea what you're wishing upon yourself, my friend.
Oh, you know what? Maybe he can bring me some of those delicious chocolate chip cookies of his, and, it'll be worth it.
Mr. Ed hitting the hay. You hit the hay?
Do I hit the hay?
You hit the hay, hit the booze, hit the whatever. I don't know.
Not today. I'm not hitting the booze, actually. I'm hitting some water because I have some work I have to be doing after this podcast.
Fantastic.
I can't, my job, I cannot be inebriated in the line of work I do.
You can't be. I thought you were talking about the podcast.
Not a good idea.
I'm like, wait a minute, hold on. And plus it's 7:30 in the morning. So why you would be inebriated now is why you're inebriated every week when we do this and not today is
usually, but not today.
Yes. And a woman who's wondering why she's not inebriated while she's hanging out with us, coming to us from the Pacific Northwest, the proprietor of one of my very favorite blogs. And I'm so happy she's here with us today from Tread Lightly, Retire Early. It's our good friend, Angela. How are you?
Hi, good. And I'm drinking kombucha.
Of course.
Now, so no alcohol for me right now either. Unfortunately, it is the store-bought variety because I did attempt to make my own. And then I left it on my counter and kept dumping out the SCOBY until I finally decided it needed to go in the compost because I was just filling up water and letting it ferment and then tossing it without doing the last step. So quarantine has me thinking maybe it's time to try again, though.
Well, OG has no idea what SCOBY even is. So he's sitting here looking it up while we talk.
Isn't that the stuff that you use like in the morning to make your breath smell good? SCOBY?
Yes. Isn't that like a Wisconsin version of Scope? Scope,
It's the green stuff that's in the big jug you fill up the cup with and then rinse it out? No?
To get OG off that topic, Angela, for the people that don't know, Tread Lightly, Retire Early, tell them about what you write about, because you're more than just sustainability. You have a great roundup of women's blogs and work that women do. I also like your Friday's Frugal 5 every week, but what other types of topics do you write about?
I've been told a couple of times that I write more of a lifestyle blog than maybe a personal finance blog. And I actually don't hate that people label me that way because I definitely write about my experience in my life and how money and sustainability play into that. I think there are very few things in life that don't involve your impact on the environment and how money plays into that as well. For me, sustainability is kind of central to my whole life, and then money kind of runs the whole thing. So on my blog, I write a lot about my garden and my little mini urban homestead, and about women writing in personal finance, and a lot of weirdo eco-frugal things like talking to people about switching out their toilets and using family cloth.
You also have been a travel blogger a little bit lately because you, over the winter, by the way, what a great time to go to this place, the winter. Whose idea was it to decide to go to Iceland in the middle of the winter?
Well, it was actually for our 10th wedding anniversary. So it was a joint decision, and I'm now 2020 hindsight very thankful we got to go because we were there over New Year's. If we had gone a month later, we may not have been able to go. So yeah, we spent 2 weeks in Iceland, spent New Year's Eve in Reykjavik, and took a boat out through the Atlantic to the Westman Islands in January, and almost got stuck there due to some winter storms. But it was a fabulous trip. I write more about our travels locally, but I pretty much, when we travel, I talk about how to do it frugally and as sustainably as possible. Yeah. And who would have guessed that I could have said that I was not going to fly in 2020 other than the one trip back from Iceland? But here we are.
Well, you had
so Angela, is it the North Pole for your silver anniversary, and is it Antarctica for your golden anniversary? Is that how we're going to do this?
I would actually love to go to Antarctica, but we have a mid-November anniversary, which was due to the fact my husband was in the Marine Corps at the time, so we didn't really have a choice as to when we got married. But now we both kind of love it because it means that we get to travel off season, which tends to be cheaper and have fewer people, and we get to do more cool things.
That is so interesting. Our anniversary is the end of November, but you can have Antarctica. We'll let you. I'll pass on that one. Not for me. Hey, we've got Angela here with us from Tread Lightly, Retire Early. We got Len Penzo here. We got OG. We got a fantastic topic. We're going to talk about the relationship between curiosity and empathy. So let's get started.
Hello, darlings. And now it's time for your favorite part of the show, our Stacking Benjamin's headlines.
Well, two things we don't usually do. Number one is we usually don't talk about a piece from the Harvard Business Review. So, Len, how about that? La-ti-da, huh?
Yeah, I was a little worried there when I saw the URL, but thanks for keeping it simple for me there, Joe.
Yes, and the second thing we usually don't do is have another of our favorite bloggers here with us as our celebrity reader here. One of the duo behind the hit award-winning blog, bitchesgetriches.com. Easily one of the best financial literacy blogs and most hilarious blogs on the internet. Let's say hello to Piggy.
This is Piggy from bitchesgetriches.com, and I'll be reading Empathy Starts with Curiosity by Peter Bregman for the Harvard Business Review. I'm feeling deeply unsettled, my client, we'll call him Keller, the CEO of an investment firm, said to me. Of course, I could reply. We're in unsettling times, especially for you, a CEO whose organization is disrupted. You're worried about cash and operational continuity, and you're in the investment community. How can you not be unsettled in the face of such dramatic and unpredictable market swings? I totally get it. That would have been the most obvious thing for me to say. It would reflect my empathy, my understanding, my connection, my own knowledge and expertise. We'd both feel good about the exchange. But it would have been a mistake. A mistake because, especially in this very new, very unique moment, there's a response that's even more powerful when someone expresses their vulnerability. A response that's important and necessary before empathy. And that's curiosity. Because the truth is, I don't know what's going on for Keller. In fact, Keller hardly knows what's going on for Keller. And we're on new ground here. And while everything I could have said could have been true, I don't actually know what is true. Which means that before demonstrating my understanding, I have to develop it. I need to ask questions and be open and listen and learn, which takes humility. Humility is not knowing, And that, eventually and almost always, leads to empathy, which leads to compassion. So when Keller told me he was feeling deeply unsettled, I asked him to tell me more. I'm glad I did. See, Keller didn't talk to me about his role as CEO, his operational challenges, or his investments. He's a solid leader, and like so many other solid leaders I know, he's sure-footed and capable in times of crisis. No, Keller wasn't struggling as a leader. He was struggling as a human being. Keller talked about feeling scared and lonely and sad and a little lost. He's feeling the weight of these times, of the uncertainty in human life. He's feeling the challenges of his family and the psychological shift of being alone in his house versus in an office. One of the effects of social distancing and working from home is that we are left, much more than usual, with ourselves. Who are we when we are no longer reflected in the faces of the people around us? Who are we without all the external recognition? No fancy clothes and cars to project an image. No praise or even rejection. No feedback at all to define us. This can leave us feeling lost, or as Keller put it, unsettled. Maybe you're feeling a little of that? I know I am. In a day, I feel everything, often inexplicably. Joy and sadness, thrill and anger, frustration and ease, and of course, fear. But also, of course, excitement and connection. To feel it all requires courage, emotional courage, which is why, as important and difficult as it is to stay curious about others, there's something equally important and far more difficult to do. We need to stay curious about ourselves. That is what is required of us now, in this new moment, a moment that is not simple, clear, or expected. Being curious about ourselves is how we begin to know, really know, who we are. That can be scary, but also possibly exciting and freeing. The hardest part? Slowing down enough to actually feel. Do you have the courage to slow down? You need courage because slowing down will, by its very nature, bring up unfamiliar and unsettling feelings. And to avoid feeling, we typically move. Over the past few weeks, I have often felt lost, surrounded by people scrambling to move. They are making plans, pivoting their businesses, voicing opinions, networking, setting direction, filling their schedules with Zoom calls. I'm on some of those Zoom calls, and when, after listening to how everyone else is pivoting, people ask me how I'm pivoting, my answer is, I don't know. I don't know what to do. I am not driven to act, and that scares me. What if I'm left behind? And then it occurs to me that avoiding the fear of being left behind is one of the reasons I act. But it is the wrong reason to act. So I tap into my courage and I don't act. And when I don't act, I am literally left behind. All I'm left with is me. And then it occurs to me that, maybe, painfully, this is part of what this moment is about. I'm learning about myself. More importantly, I'm learning to tolerate myself, to stay with myself, even in my fears, even in my insecurities. And when I see that I am capable of staying with myself in my fears and insecurities, I no longer have to act to avoid them, which leads to a new confidence, an irrepressible power, and a profound freedom to act, not out of fear and insecurity, but out of purpose and connection and strength and longing and love. There is a way in which this pandemic may be calling us to slow down and listen. What if we resist the urge to act, to just do something, and instead stop doing? Just be present. What you discover may surprise you. When Keller slowed down enough to feel, his ultimate experience wasn't depression. It was optimism. A journey of self-discovery and radical acceptance, he told me, an attunement with the soul. So I ask you, in this moment, can you stop everything for a beat, take a breath, and be curious? What are you feeling?
Huge. Thanks to celebrity reader Peggy from Bitches Get Riches for helping us with that. I feel like the world needs some empathy right now. And I guess we'll just start off. Angela, when you read this, I'm wondering, where has curiosity affected your life most?
Well, I think it's pretty interesting that we're having this conversation today of all days. I don't know if you tell your reader or listeners when you're recording. I just realized. Yeah, we record this, guys, slightly ahead. There has been, of course, a ton of unrest in cities across the United States. We have had reports from
all over the U.S. about a lot of backlash after the events in Minneapolis. So it is, I think, an important time to have that topic. And while, Angela, I do think that, curiosity and empathy kind of have a strong correlation. And maybe today's the day to think about that.
Yeah. And I think right now we are all kind of on high alert and high anxiety with everything that's gone on over the last 4 months or so. And I don't think you can pull apart any piece of that. The Black folks in the United States are definitely probably looking at us being like, hey guys, this is kind of how we feel most of the time. And I think we need to listen and be curious and realize that these are not new issues and not new concerns for a lot of people. Basically being curious about other people's stories and understanding that my story is very, very different from a lot of other stories. And I don't want to put words into other people's mouths or presume that I know what they feel like or how they're doing right now. So I think for me, curiosity is more about making sure that we can really listen and understand other people's thoughts and feelings right now, and maybe taking a step back and letting ourselves be open to those conversations rather than immediately jumping into how we feel and how we want to react to a situation.
Do you think that that's more difficult to do because you're a blogger or easier to do? Because sometimes I feel like when you're blogging or podcasting or whatever it is, you're used to having this platform, but the platform is a megaphone, right? It isn't a megaphone attached to your ears. It's a megaphone attached to your mouth.
I think it can go both ways, really. In some ways, it's more difficult, especially if you are not anonymous like I am. I have been very open about who I am and my name and where I live and all that. So I think in some ways it's harder to share because I am very aware that whatever I put out there is very much connected to me. At the same time, though, because I know people are listening and watching and reading my words, I know that I have to be very focused on what I'm thinking and what I'm learning and what I'm sharing because people are watching. So I think it's kind of like with sharing my money financial roundups every month about how much we spent and saved, knowing that people are watching that every month means that I pay more close attention than if I thought nobody was watching.
Len, when you started your blog, and I know it's going to be hard to keep this on money today because of all the things going on in the universe, but we're a money podcast. But I do think there's much wider ways for us to talk about this. But did you start this for accountability reasons, the lenpenzo.com blog? Did you start it to maybe start a conversation?
Well, yeah. I mean, with accountability, I mean, that is the subtitle of my blog. It's lenpenzo.com, but it's the financial blog for responsible people. So I guess accountability is embedded in that. So yes, and part of that was to make people think twice about looking inward as well. So yeah, absolutely.
What do you mean think twice about looking inward?
I guess think twice isn't the right word, but just to look inward in case sometimes, people like to blame others for their problems. So, and one thing I try to do is say, hey, I do understand there's extenuating circumstances sometimes, but if you refuse to look inward, you might find that the problem is actually more about yourself, like you're spending too much. So, and a lot of people will just ignore that sometimes. That's basically where I'm focused.
When it comes to curiosity, we're talking about curiosity and empathy. For you, when does being curious help you with empathy?
Well, being empathetic, it starts with curiosity, right? Because if you don't talk to people and you don't find out a little bit more about them, you don't know where they're coming from, right? So, they go hand in glove, really, I think. You can't be empathetic if you're not curious because you can't just make snap judgments about anybody. So, and the best way to gain that empathy is to learn about them and ask questions.
Yeah, I feel like we do that a lot too. I think we have snap judgments. You look at the celebrity culture, Len, that we're in right now. We see the way people spend money. Well, heck, you see somebody that drives a really expensive car and you immediately think either A, they blow a ton of money, or you think B, they must be rich as all get out. We know that that's not always true either way. Sometimes people have so much money that them affording a Ferrari is fine because it's a drop in the bucket for them. And for other people, they're spending every dollar on their Ferrari and they live in a tent next to it because they're so.
I mean, that's when you make assumptions, right? I mean, people do that my kids do that. And I fought long and hard with them. You know, they'll see somebody driving a nice car. Oh, look at that guy. He's so wealthy. And I will just tell him, how do you know he's wealthy? He might be in debt up to his eyeballs. So, I mean, yeah, that's the kind of thing you can't judge a book by its cover. And the only way to get through and learn about things is to ask people questions about themselves.
Oh, gee, speaking of asking people questions about themselves, I mean, I think your job is very hard, like understanding somebody's point of view when you're sitting across a table from them, or in your job more often than not, virtually sitting across the table from them is difficult. How do you empathize with somebody whose life story and their financial situation is so different than yours, so you're able to get on the same page with them?
Well, that's a good question. It's a couple of things. First of all, I always tell everybody every mistake that you can do with money, I've done twice already. Once because I didn't know any better, and then the second time just for more market research. So trust me, I've been there. But it's very difficult, especially from a professional standpoint, because I value decisiveness and just kind of movement and action. And so when I hear stuff that's going on in people's lives money-wise, I'm very quick to say, oh, here's the answer. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And this is how you solve this problem. And I know how to do it. I've done it 1,000 times and do this. And, take 2 of these and call me in the morning. We just finished up about 6 weeks, maybe, of these 30-minute calls. We kind of kicked that off at the end of April, just for no other reason than just to have an opportunity for people in our community to talk to another human being about whatever. And a couple of people have asked me, hey, did you get anything out of that? As if from a business standpoint, did you get any business out of it? And I said, very selfishly, I said, no, number one, I wasn't trying to. That wasn't the purpose of it. But for me, the idea was, could I spend a lot of time just listening to what's going on in people's worlds? Because it's a skill set that's very difficult to be good at, just listening. And in my role, on the planning side of things, like you said, I'm very quick to solve the problem. But these conversations weren't always about money. Sometimes they were about relationships with parents. Sometimes it was about decision-making around new career choices. And the last several months has caused people to think differently about what they want to do with their lives and that sort of thing. And who am I to tell you whether or not you should change your job? I don't know. The purpose of it was just to have someone else to talk to. And I was very honored to talk to everybody over the last month and a half or so. And so what I got out of it was hopefully the ability to continue to be a better listener. And, and if I was able to provide some counsel along the way, that's great too. But selfishly for me, I was trying to get really good at listening because like Len said, if you don't shut the F up, how are you supposed to put yourself in somebody else's shoes? Unless you ask questions, which is a great way to kind of put that. I'm curious. Tell me more about that.
And I think also with that, talking about snap judgments, I think we have to recognize that we all do it. So being curious with why we make those snap judgments and why we have those quick, immediate reactions, and then have to actually think through okay, this was my first initial gut reaction. It might not be what I actually want to pursue, but knowing that happens and then being able to tackle that from that place. It's nice to think that other people do this, but we all do this. And so the more that we can recognize that in ourselves, I think the more that we can actually do better in the future.
Just, it's okay to have the feeling at first, you're saying, Angela, but acting on it is something totally different.
Right.
Yeah. It's funny. Do you think social media makes that easier or harder to have a filter?
Harder, definitely. Especially on places like Twitter, where you can just put things out quickly. There are always people to jump on you one way or the other. But at the same time, I was taught that anything I'm going to write, I should be ready for it to be on the front page of the Seattle Times.
Yeah.
So I think it's the realization that anything you put out there could be, broadcast to the world. And a lot of people hide behind, even what's odd to me is that they'll hide behind social media, but with their real name. which doesn't work so well. But
it's a lot easier with a bag on your head.
Yeah, but people do it, with their name attached to it. But for some reason, if we're sitting behind a computer or behind a phone screen, it doesn't feel real. It's like a layer of reality. But the realization that there are real people on the other side and that you are tied to things, I think that's part of the reason why I like not being anonymous, is because it means that I am fully responsible for any of the actions that I share online.
How often do we, like you said, look at the person who has the Ferrari and then decide either they're wealthy or they're dead broke or they're a fool with money or how awesome are they or whatever? One of the things that I realized a long time ago, and I'm trying to teach my team this as well, everyone knows where they are with their money. If you're in debt up to your eyeballs, you know it. Might not have come to the conclusion that that's not the greatest thing in the world, but you know it. And you don't want to talk to me you don't want to hear me tell you how dumb of an idea that was. Like when you're talking to somebody else, what are you trying to do? You're trying to say, hey, here's me. And can you provide some counsel with this, or can you guide me a little bit in this journey that I'm taking? You don't need somebody to be like, well, that was stupid. That was dumb to have all that credit card. I can't believe that you have all that student loan debt. That's really dumb. Like, okay, thank you for all of that. Now what do I do with that information? Right. And we have to be real cautious about that. And I'm trying to do that and be better at it, but I'm trying to teach my team too, that when you're working with people, you're not there to bash them over the head over the decisions that they've made in the past. It's about hope and optimism moving forward of here's how you can make decisions in the future.
I feel like there's a line there because I sometimes feel like some people, Angela, like the fact that Susie Orman tells them what to do, or tells them it's stupid. And I don't know if that's our own weakness or if it's, is it a certain personality?
Well, it's definitely not the way I approach things, but I do realize that it does work for some people. But what I've actually found is that by sharing my story and being transparent online is that I've had friends in real life come to me with money questions in ways that they never had beforehand. I was the first of my friends to buy a house, the first to pay off my student loans. My friends were aware that I had a pretty good grasp on my money, but until I started blogging and then later sharing that I was blogging, and I had friends read online, where I wasn't there in their face, and they could read my thoughts and, how I saw money, then I actually had people coming to me and asking questions. So I think some of it is having that ability to digest and think through and not be immediately confronted with what's going on. Clearly, some people really like the Susie Orman type of reaction, but I think also most of them probably wouldn't do well with that face-to-face.
Yeah.
There's something about being drawn to a radio, video, personality who says those sorts of things versus a friend that sits down with you one-on-one.
Kitten in your face.
Yeah.
A phrase that Peter uses in this piece, Len, is emotional courage. And it sounds like a lot of what we're talking about here is this idea of having emotional courage. I mean, I think sometimes, especially on your blog, you talk about EQ, right? There's IQ and EQ, but emotional courage. What do you think about that phrase?
Well, you know what? I like it because part of that is it's about the fear of facing up to your failures. Okay. I mean, that's one example of emotional courage. And it's kind of like looking inward. You've got to accept your failures. If you're not willing to do that, because I think we all know people who refuse to ever accept any responsibility for anything or admit that they're wrong. I mean, and that's always the first step in almost anything important, right? You have to admit you have a problem.
Well, and he says that in the piece that we avoid these times of stillness, right? It's when I'm still that I know that I know in my heart and in my head that I've got all this credit card debt, or, you know what, I shouldn't have taken out so many student loans, or maybe I totally messed up on that investment, or whatever the case may be, that I messed it up. So he said, we keep moving. You know, I love that we keep moving to avoid the still periods. And you're
exactly.
saying,
yes.
You're saying you got to be still more often. You
absolutely have to be still more. I mean, you have to sit. You know what? I do a lot of my introspection, and no, it's not on the toilet. It's actually when I'm laying in bed at night before I go to sleep, and I think about things like, how could I have done this better, or why is this project I'm doing not working out the way? You know what I'm saying? I lay there and it's quiet and it's just me and my thoughts, and I use that time to actively look inward and ask questions of myself. And that almost always good things come of that eventually. I might not like the answers I get sometimes, but I mean, it's very important.
Well, and it's interesting, Angela, as Len's talking, I think about when you look inward too, it also reduces the blame that you might have on somebody else, because then you start focusing on what you can do instead of what you wish somebody else were doing.
Honestly, the stillness thing is something that I am very much still working on. It's very difficult for me. I struggle with anxiety, and in the last year, I've actually gotten on anxiety medication, which has helped significantly. People often ask how I'm able to do so much and do so many things. And that includes reaching out to friends and making sure they're doing okay. And, you know, always making sure that I'm pouring myself in other things, because that personal stillness is very, very difficult for me and tends to make me pretty anxious. So it's been a slow process to doing more of that, but it's definitely not something that comes to me naturally.
Well, so then that phrase for you that he used, emotional courage, meant a lot to you too, then I would think.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the harder things to do in life. I have been starting a daily yoga practice about like the last 40 days now. I've been doing at least 20 minutes of yoga a day. And the first week or two, you know, I went through the motions because I told myself I was going to do it. But once I got back into it, I before my son was born, I used to do yoga a lot more. But I feel like I'm finding myself get back to that place where I can lay on the mat and like let my thoughts go and be still and quiet. Finally taking the time for myself for those 20 minutes has been a pretty big deal, because I tend to pour myself out into 50 million different things, partially to run from anxiety and partially to be a good person to others. But
hey, with or without the goats, Angela? You know what I'm talking about, right? Have you seen the people that do the yoga with goats?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I unfortunately have not gotten to do that, but I do yoga with my son sometimes, and the dogs like to come over, and sometimes the cattle jump on me. So I don't know if I need goat yoga too, but it's tempting.
Yoga with family.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting one sometimes. But it can be fun. We do like frozen yoga and stuff too. So
I'm up for
frozen yoga.
I was gonna say I like frozen yogurt, but frozen yoga.
That's the same thing as froyo, right? You get mine with peanut butter and the chocolate syrup. Blended together.
Yeah, that's where just finish that word, Angela. Make it yogurt, and we're good.
Frozen yogurt.
Oh, my husband actually calls yoga yogurt on purpose.
OG, I want to ask you about your meetings, because I think this time of stillness that Peter talks about here is more important than ever when you're having financial planning meetings with people. Like, how do you make sure that the distractions stay out and people can be still for a minute and focus on their financial plan?
That's a really good question. Sometimes people just show up and just say, hey, I didn't do any of the homework, and I got 22 minutes before I got to drop my kid off for dance. So let's get it. And that's fine too, because that's just where they're at right then in their life. So
unfortunately, OG, doesn't that it just they cheat themselves, right? I mean, that's unfortunate, because I mean,
it's like
an
working
opportunity
out, right?
lost.
Yeah, I thought you were going to go the other way with that. I'm kind of with Len. I'm like, I thought you were going to say, nope, go home and let's wait till you got the full hour.
That's that's really good observation. And I think that by and large, that's probably the right choice. It's like if you're going to brush your teeth, you might as well do it for the 2 minutes. You're already there for the 30 seconds. What's another minute and a half type of deal? But, some people, I guess it's going to be a little bit person specific, but you're right. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, I can tell you we've spent way more time planning and unplanning our potential Disney vacation this year prior to COVID, during COVID, and after, while all the reopenings are happening and trying to decide what we spent more time on that this year than we have on our retirement plan. I guarantee it. It's not a different kind of symptom. I don't know what it is, but we're not unique in that. And Len, I think you're spot on. You're probably cheating yourself a little bit if you can't dedicate a few hours a couple times a year to just be quiet and just work on this stuff too.
Len, there's a phrase you said, I think it was a couple weeks ago. It was when we did the 68 pieces of unsolicited advice, that the most interesting people are the most interested people. Starts out with being interested in somebody else first. And I felt that the entire time I was reading this piece.
Yep. Absolutely. And again, isn't that funny how we come back to this? I mean, ask questions and be interested in others, and good things come of that.
Yeah. We will give our guest of honor the last takeaway. So Len, we'll stick with you. Is that your takeaway, or what's your big takeaway from this piece?
You know what I'd say is empathy and curiosity are so complementary. It's like chocolate and peanut butter. So that's my takeaway.
Yeah. What a time we need it today too. OG?
If you can work on adding the phrase, "I'm curious, tell me more about that," you'll get more out of every interaction that you have.
And Angela, you've got the last word.
So then the last word, I think I've been pondering on what I want to say here, but right now, especially, I'm curious, tell me more, but also understanding that there are some people that right now are not going to want to tell us more. And being able to Google and read what's been shared online. And if it's a really simple, straightforward question, maybe your first place isn't to ask somebody to do the emotional labor to explain to you what's going on. But maybe a place to start is by listening to the people that are already talking about it, and understanding that asking the question is wonderful and bringing it up as an issue is wonderful, but also not placing the burden on someone else to then have to explain their side of the story.
Well, on today's show, I'm so excited about this Friday Fintech segment because of the fact that we have seen lots and lots of different ways to manage your money. And I've often talked about the fact that many of the solutions that are out there, I have lots of issues with. So I was really excited to see Copilot, another entry into what I think has become a crowded field, but one that has so many interesting characteristics and is being handled so differently that I thought we should learn about it together. So on Friday Fintech segments, we do not endorse the companies that come on. We're just learning about them together. And today, let's hear about Copilot from founder Andres Ugarte. And on my dad's shortwave, it's our new friend, Andres Ugarte. How are you, man?
I'm good. How are you?
Well, I'm great now that you're here. And I have to tell you, we talk to founders a lot, and just the look of Copilot is so cool. You can see, we're going to learn today about what's under the hood, but man, if you're looking for something that just looks great, Copilot's fantastic. So congratulations on that, by the way.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Tell me the founding story. So did you think that there was a better way to look at your budget? Was it a personal issue, or did you see an opportunity in the marketplace?
So to take a quick step back, my background is in engineering. I'm an engineer. I've been building products, mostly on mobile, for many, many years. Most of that time I spent it at Google. I've always been interested in the personal finance space, trying out all the new apps as they've been coming out over the years since Mint got acquired. Honestly, I've been mostly underwhelmed and frustrated with all the different products that I've been trying over the years. And I finally got my green card and I was able to start my own company. And I knew that like my expertise in building consumer products with my interest in the space, plus this, what I felt was a big gap in, even though it's a crowded category, I felt like no one was really nailing the personal finance experience on mobile. So that's kind of why I started prototyping things around personal finance and quickly decided to start with budgeting, day-to-day tracking, month-to-month tracking of your expenses. To me, that's the key thing that you need to get right if you want to build a really great tool.
What was the pain point, though? What was missing that you really wanted to address that Copilot addresses that other people don't, that you were hoping for and you just weren't seeing?
That's a great question. Sadly, there's no one killer feature that I can point you to. I feel like what was missing was a combination of small things that end up adding to a big thing, right? Getting the user experience right when you're on your phone is actually very important to me, and I feel it's critical for any product. The other one was like, the way I think about my money is very different than the way you think about your money. And a personal finance tool should be able to reflect that. Otherwise, you're not going to stick to it. It's not going to make sense to you. So we really invested a lot of time and engineering in like building a product that feels approachable, it feels simple. But if you're willing to put the time and effort into training it and to creating your own group of categories, it actually can get as complex as you want it to get, which is something that people really appreciate. And I think that's the main reason why people, from what we see in the data, is like our users, once they go through the onboarding, they actually stick with the product and they open the app multiple times a day, actually. The engagement retention is super high because I feel like they are able to model what they see in the app to actually match how they think about their finances. And I think that was something that was missing in the products that are out there.
Yeah, for me, it's you guys are using, let me see if I get this straight. You're using machine learning so that every time I turn on the app, depending on what I do, and as I train it toward what I do, I get a better, more personalized experience that's different than, you know, my partner OG or my mom's neighbor Doug or anybody else here in the basement. My experience with Copilot's going to be completely different than mom's will be.
Yeah, so it's, I mean, machine learning is just like a means to an end. It's not actually kind of like the thing that we do that no one else does. It's a combination of things where sometimes we're going to get the categorization wrong. We're going to get like a refund that we think is maybe like your paycheck or something like that. The fact that you're able to quickly fix that and that the app gets smarter and it learns and it doesn't commit the same mistake again, it's something that is like a big pain point in this category, right? I still get my monthly email from Mint saying like, alert, this big expense just appeared on your account. It's like, yep, I'm paying rent every month, same amount of money. And it's like, please get smarter, get better.
I'm laughing about that too, because I can't tell you how many times I had to tell, I don't know if it was Mint or another app, but I had to tell it over and over and over that Caribou wasn't hunting. It was a coffee shop.
Yeah.
It was so funny. So let's walk through it. Where do I go first? Do I go to copilot.money? Do I go to the App Store? How do I first experience Copilot?
Right. So it's worth mentioning that right now we're only on iOS. So if you have an iPhone, the best way to find us is to go to the App Store, search for Copilot, and we're going to be there. Copilot.money is our website if you want to read more about it. But you download the app, and the first step is to connect your bank accounts. You can connect your credit cards and checking savings accounts. Those are like the types of accounts that we see people connecting the most when they're like first creating their account.
And just to stop you there briefly, Andreas, my understanding too is this is bank level security, right? I mean, the same security features when I put all my things in that I would get at any place where I'm banking.
Yeah. So we rely on Plaid. Basically, we don't see or store any of your credentials. The data we get from Plaid is like your transactions, your account balances, and of course we store that data in a way that it's secure and we're not sharing it with anybody, which is a big thing for us. Like we're just here to provide a service to you. That's why this is a paid product. We have a low monthly subscription fee. You connect your accounts. Copilot analyzes your transactions to find any recurring expenses, meaning monthly bills, subscriptions, all of that stuff. Because we quickly realized when we were building this product is like to deliver a good experience and a like useful information throughout the month, we needed to have a good understanding of the expected expenses that you're going to have throughout the month. So we do that automatically. And then the next step is based on your transactions over the past 3 months. We suggest categories to get you started on the tracking side of things. And the same goes with suggesting budgets. So basically the idea is like the moment you connect your accounts, Copilot analyzes your data to suggest like a good starting point for you to start using the app automatically. And then once you're in the app, you can customize it as much as you want. Like every category has for example, like a color. It comes with an emoji, which our users really appreciate. When I was designing it, I was worried that it could come across as like childish, but actually it doesn't. It helps you digest the information on the screen way faster because these are like icons, images, instead of having to read every category name. So one of the small things that people really appreciate is that we pay attention to those things. And yeah, you can group your categories as like however you want. You can have a budget. Instead of having a budget for every category, for example, you can set one for the entire group of categories. And that's pretty much the gist of it, of like onboarding, setting up your account. And then a feature that it was very interesting when we added it, because I wanted people to help us train the models so that we would get the categorization right. So we built in the dashboard in the app a daily snapshot of what happened with your accounts. So we show you a summary of, hey, these are the transactions that posted yesterday, for example. And you can see this was income, this was like restaurant expense, and you tap it and you mark it as reviewed and it goes away. So it's kind of like an inbox zero experience around your finances. And it ended up being the most engaging feature we have in the app. People come back to it multiple times a day if you have a lot of transactions happening on your accounts. But yeah, it provides like a way for you to stay on top of your finances that doesn't require you to sit in front of a computer once a month or once a week, maybe with your partner, and go over the statements and review every transaction. You just do it on your phone. It's like this quick interaction that's like very simple and it doesn't take a lot of time, and people really appreciate that.
Well, that's what I really like. Cheryl and I have a weekly money meeting, and being able to go through and click each of the expenses as we go. And it makes it so quick to do that. What I find really interesting that you talked about, though, that I want to make sure we don't gloss over is Copilot will show me recurring expenses that are coming up. So if I can plan ahead, I'm not surprised by something coming up in the future. You know, as a guy that used to always have insufficient fund fees back in the mid 90s when I was getting my act together, man, being able to look ahead can help so many people plan. Talk about setting that up.
You mean from the engineering side of things, or as a user?
Yeah. How easy was it to see when you had a recurring expense, or do I have to train it to say, hey, this is going to recur every month?
It wasn't too hard, to be honest, to get a V1, if you may. We basically look at like the last 3 months. We see which transactions are reoccurring around the same time of the same day for the similar amount, and the names kind of match. So we follow that logic to suggest like, hey, we think these are recurring expenses, but the user can easily tag any transaction that we missed that was actually a recurring expense with one tap. And yeah, the more people use the app, we're getting better at like automatically detect this. And I agree with you. Like, in order for you to be able to really understand your finances and plan ahead, you need to account for all the big expenses, even the small ones, but like everything that you know is going to happen throughout the month. That's why in the app, for example, we consider any upcoming recurring expense to be money that you've kind of already spent, because we know it's gonna happen. So if you're spending on your house, your home category, and we know there's a bill coming up, we already account for it, and we tell you, hey, you're going to be over budget when this actually appears on your account. So there's a lot of small things we do in the app that actually makes hopefully every part of the app very useful. For example, our dashboard doesn't have the usual chart where you see like when you pay rent or your mortgage, the chart just jumps, because like that's by far the biggest expense you have throughout the month. And then the chart is not really useful because you're only seeing like that you pay your mortgage or you pay your rent. So we take out of that equation all of the recurring expenses, and we only show you your kind of like your flexible spending throughout the month. So it's really easy to see, and the chart gets like yellow and orange if you're like overspending. So it's a quick way of helping you stay on track to actually by the end of the month be under budget.
Yeah, diagnose on the fly. And it's funny because I think about it as you're talking about when we look at stocks and we look at the companies whose stock you want to own have great free cash flow. And so you're already taking into account cash flow you might think you have now, but that's really tied up. It is not free cash flow.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. A couple of quick questions. When it comes to, you said you're on iOS now, plans to come to Android in the future. I'm sure you've been asked that before.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, we are still a pretty small team. We are 6 people. So we've been focused on getting the experience right on iOS, and I think we're getting there. So of course, we want to start building not only on Android, but also an experience on desktop and on iPads. That's another feature request we get a lot. But yeah, the way we approach this is like, instead of doing a lot and not doing it right, we want to like focus on stuff. And once we get it right, move on to the next thing. And so that's why the focus has been on, let's make this app that really works very well on your phone for iOS. And now that we're kind of like getting there, we can start thinking about, okay, Android and desktop and all of that stuff.
With the Mint app, what used to drive me crazy when I used it, Andreas, was all of the ads that I got in my face all the time. You guys have avoided that by being, my understanding is, a subscription service. You have a subscription so that I'm not going to have a bunch of ads paying for this experience and watering it down. Tell me about the subscription. So we had a beta testing phase from August of last year until December of last year. And we had a few hundred users who were beta testing the product. The most frequent piece of feedback we would get was like, hey, I've been using Mint for many, many, many years. I've been looking for a better product, but I haven't found that like product that is so much better that it's going to convince me to actually switch over to a new platform. And the feedback was like, hey, I found it. Please don't do anything crazy with it. Don't put ads on it. Literally take my money and keep building what you're building. And so that was a big sign for us that when we launched, we wanted to launch with a business model that was sustainable and that would align our incentives with the users, so that we're going to do great if our users really like the product and they're willing to pay for it. And I think setting that bar that high has been the best decision we've made so far. And we found a lot of users who are willing to pay a low monthly subscription fee to not have to worry about like what's going to happen with their data and use a better tool. And as I said before, like our users are opening Copilot multiple times a day. So this is like part of their daily lives to stay on top of their finances. And they really appreciate having this better experience. Yeah. And by the way, how much is the subscription currently?
$2.99 a month.
Okay. When you say low, that's incredibly low, right? That is incredibly low. thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule, making Copilot better, Andreas. I really appreciate hanging out, talking about Copilot. By the way, if you want more, I will have a link to the web and copilot.money if you're walking the dog or out for your morning run, whatever it might be. As I said to somebody recently, Andreas, I told them I used to say commuting to work, but I don't think anybody does that anymore. So, but we got you covered. We'll have links to Copilot on our Stacking Benjamins show notes page. Andreas, thanks a ton for hanging out. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. It's been fun.
Hey, trivia fans, it's your melancholy. Yeah, that's right. I know a few big words. I said melancholy. It's your melancholy friend, Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug. Right when the neighbors were finally starting to wave when I'd walk down the street, and just as I was getting in with the local buffet owner, although I get it, who's friends with a buffet owner right now? He needs a buddy. You know, everybody needs friends in tough times. And I just found that hole in the fence so I can sneak into the neighborhood pool. Totally scot-free. But nope, it's all for naught. Why? Well, I'll tell you, so I can practice breaking it to Joe's mom. But first I need to go hand a bartender some Benjamins and drown down my sorrows. Which brings us to today's trivia. The oldest still operating bar in Arizona was established in what year? I'll be back faster than you can glug, 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 glug.
All right, we explained the convoluted rules to this game to Angela behind the scenes. Here's what we're doing for those of you new to the show. We have a year-long trivia contest. Len is in the lead with 8. Len, I got a question for you. How the hell is it June and you're still in the lead? What's going on there?
Hey, man, don't sell me short. You know what? I was a co-winner last year, so I'm not the...
It's like, whoa, those are fighting words. OG is at 7 after having the lead out of the gate.
True.
And Angela, you're playing. I probably should have paused there, should I have? And Angela, you're playing on behalf of our friend Paula Pant, and she has had a huge comeback lately, so no pressure. She's at 6. So it's Len 8, OG 7, and Angela / Paula have 6. And because you are taking Paula's place, you get to decide first because she's in last. Would you like to guess the answer to this question, Angela, first, in the middle, or would you like to guess last?
Let's go with the middle.
All right. Angela's going to guess in the middle. What about you, OG?
I'll go last then.
I saw OG's, his face lit up when Angela said middle.
All right. So OG is going to guess last, which means, Len, you are taking the first crack at this one. What year was the first bar in Arizona open?
Well, I'm going to say, let's see. What's the average TGI Fridays open? How long is the average TGI Fridays? Probably, you know what? I have no clue, Joe. I'm just going to take a stab. Let's say it's before. I'm going to say, okay, because we do have Prohibition, right? We have Prohibition that might have screwed everything up. Now, when did Prohibition end? That's a good question. I can't remember. But you know what? Maybe it stayed, well, legally. It's got to be in the 20s. I'm going to say 1929.
1929, the longest running bar in Arizona. Angela?
I'm going to go older than that. I bet you there were places that were open before the Prohibition that reopened. But there are definitely some older buildings that would have been, turn of the century. So I'm going to go with 1904. I will do a full century later than my original guess.
I wonder too, Len mentioned Prohibition. I wonder if trivia 100, 150 years from now, people are going to go, well, they had that COVID. And remember when you couldn't go into the restaurants because of the COVID? Maybe, do you think that'll be a thing? Who knows?
It'll be a thing.
It will be a thing. Yeah. OG, that gives you 25 years between those two numbers.
Which is baloney. All right. So
maybe going last isn't as great now.
Yeah, well, it was great when you guys, the first take of this, which wasn't recorded.
And for those
But it was
people,
awesome.
for those people listening, we needed a rules clarification, which is bar that's open now, bar that has been open the longest, not when there was the first bar. We started off answering the wrong question. OG pointed out, and now he's furious. There's an asterisk over this whole game.
The whole game, no matter what happens.
Throw out all the results.
I felt pretty good about having 1847 till present.
I got to say, I know, OG, Angela shares your fury. She's going to be on Twitter going, this whole trivia on Stacking Benjamins is a sham. I should have never gone on the show.
She's going to write that second part for sure.
It's going to ruin her reputation.
All right. So, oldest bar. The only thing I know about Arizona is there's something about Winslow, Arizona, and
a flatbed Ford,
flatbed truck or something. I don't know. She's slowing down. The only thing I know about Arizona. So I'm going to say before 1904. So I will say 1903, and I'll have everything before that.
1903. So you just Chelsea Brennan her on the
Absolutely
1904. All right.
That work out, but that's what I picked.
We'd love to tell you when the longest operating bar opened, but first we have to take a little break.
Bonjour. Welcome to French Made Easy with me, your host, Mathilde. Today, I'm joined by certified financial planner Devin Carroll, and together we will share a popular and simple French phrase so you too can use it in your own life. Sound easy? Sure. Today's phrase is valuable when you see a woman named Sally. Say this: Sally, can I store my gold in your doomsday bunker? In French, you would say this popular phrase just like this: Sally, est-ce que je peux ranger mon or dans ton bunker anti-fin du monde? Once again. Sally, est-ce que je peux ranger mon or dans ton bunker anti-fin du monde? Now, let's hear certified financial planner Devin Carroll try it. Ready, Devin?
Okay, yes. Sally, est-ce que de ranger mon dans ton bunker anti-fin du monde? Oh yeah, I nailed that for sure.
Perfect! See how we sound almost exactly alike? You too can speak French easily and comfortably listening to Stacking Benjamins. See you next time. Au revoir.
So, Angela, that's the way the game works. You have a great answer like 1904 and somebody comes and takes away half your thunder. Isn't that great?
Well, the good news is I'm only on this week, so sorry, Paula.
She's like, not my problem after this. Len, you've got 1929. You've got everything after 1929. So if
actually, I've got halfway to 1904 too, don't I?
It could have just opened last year and you got it.
I think OG's got this.
You think?
Yeah.
Well, OG, 1904.
I feel like I should have done it a decade earlier. I feel like I probably barely missed the boat.
You could have gone 1804, which, by the way, before we clarified, was Angela's answer the first time we did this. All right. Let's see, Doug. What's the answer to the question?
Hey there, trivia fans. It's your pal, Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug. And since you're all wondering exactly what I did to get the whole crew kicked out of Globe, well, here's my story. Honestly, it couldn't have been my fault, right? I mean, it was a warm day back in the summer of '85. I'm driving along, blasting my new Def Leppard mixtape in my Chevy Cavalier, when all of a sudden, hey, that car was bitching, man. When all of a sudden, I come across an apple orchard. I looked at the clock, and it was exactly 2 p.m. Come on, Stackers, you know what that means, don't you? Are you telling me you wouldn't have done exactly what I did? Who would have known that apples do that when you throw them toward, you know what? By this point, I'm sure the video footage has circumnavigated the globe and you can see firsthand exactly what I've done. I'd just like to say I'm sorry to each and every one of you who was offended. I thought moving to Texarkana and then Michigan would solve the problem, but listen, I get it. I'm so ashamed. I can't. I'm so ashamed. And now I got to figure out how to break it to Joe's mom. That lady's going to be furious. But before I ruin her world, let's get back to today's trivia. The question was, What year was the oldest bar in Arizona first established? Now, the Palace Restaurant and Saloon is both the oldest business and oldest bar operating in the state of Arizona. Located on historic Whiskey Row in Prescott, the saloon was opened in 1877. All right, I'm sure most of you got that one. It was one of my easier ones. Thought I'd, throw you a softball there for my going away gift to everybody here in Globe. So, time for me to go let down Joe's mom real easy.
Yeah, I knew it.
I think, Angela...
No, you
pretty
guessed
darn close.
1929. You didn't know anything.
That's what I was going to say, Angela. The only good news there is if you would have stuck with 1804 from the first one, you still would have had it wrong. So,
you know what I'm impressed with?
I'm curious when the first actual bar opened in the state.
If only we had a machine.
I'm impressed you actually knew how to pronounce Prescott.
It's well,
I thought he pronounced it wrong.
No, it's Prescott.
I have to tell you how I know. When I lived in Texarkana, Texas, there was a little tiny town that looked like it was Prescott down the street. But in Arkansas, it isn't even Prescott. It's Prescott. That's the way you pronounce it. I don't know if I got enough twang on that.
Is that like Peabody, Massachusetts, not Peabody?
Well, thank you for the pronunciation guideline.
Anytime, Joe.
Nice job. Hey guys, let's take a second here and help somebody magnify their money. Today's hotline call comes to us courtesy of magnifymoney.com. Angela, when you head to stackingbenjamins.com/magnify money, you know what happens?
Am I supposed to be answering something here?
And therein lies the answer.
There it is.
We've got the answer.
Yes. The correct answer might be no. I have no idea. What happens is you find out that those bank products you've been using from your local brick and mortar bank, probably not best in class, because over 92% of the products you use every day for banking, saving, taking out loans, credit cards, whatever it is, they're all rated very simply and succinctly at stackingbenjamins.com/magnify money. Head to Magnify Money for more. And you know what? Instead of answering a specific question, I want you guys to all weigh in on one that I asked the Twitter sphere last week. I went to my Average Joe Money profile and asked this question. What's something you didn't realize how expensive it was until you had to start buying it yourself? Angela, when you read that, what did you think? Something you didn't realize how expensive it was until you had to buy it yourself.
That's kind of a good question because pretty early on, my parents were pretty invested on us having to spend our own money or at least give it to us to then figure out how much things cost. So like with school clothes and whatnot, we got a budget and had to go out and shop for ourselves.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
Yeah. And when I was 9, I wanted a bunk bed. And so I had to save up half the money to buy it. So I'm probably going to go with something that has to do with, let's go with childcare.
Yeah. Oh.
That one is painful. Shocking, actually, how much money it costs.
I felt like I got a huge raise when my kids went to school.
Yeah, my goal is not to have a huge raise, and that money is going to be diverted directly to his college fund.
Nice.
But it's going to feel really, really good to be able to put that kind of money aside for him when that happens. But when I was growing up, my grandmother actually still lives with my parents, but she did from the time I was a baby. So with my mom working from home and then having my grandmother home, they never had any childcare expenses. And it's nothing that I really considered until having my own son of not just how expensive childcare is, but how overwhelmingly complicated it is if both parents are working or if you are a single parent household. So
I'm going to do
not just expensive in money, but expensive in time and energy and effort. And
yeah. And for me, it was worry. The first childcare we had for our twins was horrible. And I won't tell the whole story, but I drove into our kids' childcare.
Thank you.
What's that? Oh, then I won't go into all of it. Yeah. I drove into my kid's childcare, and the husband drove in behind me, pulled into their driveway behind me. And then I found out that he was the one watching the 6 kids, and he had just run down to the store while 6 toddlers were there alone. It was unbelievable. It was.
Sorry about that, Joe. I didn't mean it.
I know
the big one was watching the little one.
Yeah, that's right. I realized Len just had to go get some smokes, but there it was. And by the way, Angela, I'm going to take the other half of that for me, which was when I first went to college, I was incredibly naive. And when I went to college, I went on a scholarship. When I decided to change schools and went to Michigan State, I was paying for it myself. I didn't understand how expensive college was even back then until I was paying for it myself. And I also didn't understand how much I hated horrible professors until I was paying for it myself. I remember sitting in a class next to a guy and he's like, "This class is a breeze, man." And I'm like, "I'm not learning anything." And I was upset. It was really nice. I'm like, "I'm paying for this crap." It was unbelievable. Len, how about you? What did you find was more expensive when you had to pay for it?
Well, I'll take the derivative of Angela's, which is actually Angela's the derivative of the one I'm going to say is it's just kids, period.
Oh,
I mean, you don't realize all the things you have these kids when they're born, what you're paying for. I mean, the diapers and the baby food and the clothes and if you have the child care, which you've already mentioned, but I mean the medical and everything, it's expensive. Kids are expensive. That's not to say they're not worth it, because they are, but boy, are they expensive.
Yeah, I was surprised by that too. I mean, just every piece of having a kid. Angela, you pay pretty close attention to your budget. Were you doing that before your child too?
Not as close as I should have. I was very, very closely while I was paying off my student loans. And then there was a gap there between paying off the student loans, saving up money for the kid. And then the first few years of parenthood, I was just kind of trying to survive. But I exclusively breastfed for the first 6 months and cloth diapered from the day he was born. So as far as food and diapers and wipes and that kind of thing, those costs were pretty much zero. So we actually had not a huge impact to our budget on that end, but it was more on the buying things from Amazon because I wasn't getting to the store, and buying takeout because I wasn't cooking as much. But the actual baby stuff and lots of hand-me-down clothes and that sort of thing. So we co-slept, so no crib or anything. But it was all the ancillary items that I just couldn't keep up with that were really expensive.
Well, and that's interesting. All these other things, Len, I found that to be the case too, just like Angela did. You know, you're pressed for time, getting takeout more often. I mean, so many other expenses that were dominoes off kids.
Yeah, of course, the other side of that is if you're lucky enough to have a stay-at-home parent, some of that you can defray some of those costs. So
can do, right. By the way,
I don't know if I would even say lucky enough to have a stay-at-home parent, because we could have had one of us stay home, but we both chose to work because we find meaning and like interest and enjoy going to work and enjoy working. So in some ways, life would have been easier if one of us had stayed home, but I don't think either of us was in a place where we would have enjoyed being home 24/7. So I don't know if, you know, all the things that you hear about that save money with a stay-at-home parent, I think it's got to be a stay-at-home parent who really wants to dive into that phase of life.
Yeah, good point. A couple people that answered the same, the Sense of Money blogger at the Sense of Money, children and their needs, which are often wants, she writes. And then our friend Jay Money at Budgets Are Sexy in all capitals said babies. How about you, Mr. OG? What was expensive? Did you not realize how expensive it was until you started buying it yourself?
I'm kind of in the same boat as Angela. I have been kind of on my own for as long as I can remember. As soon as I started working at 11, I was in charge of my own clothing and any sort of fun activities that I wanted to have. I mean, I distinctly remember buying a pair of tennis shoes that were like $40 And my dad almost lost his mind because he's like, you bought shoes for $40. What is wrong with you? You know, because you could go down to the pennies or Sears or whatever, and they were $9 a pair. And I was such an idiot for buying the new Nikes or something. But because kids have already been taken, which are just out of this world expensive in every level. You think childcare is expensive for one? Try 3. Good luck with that. Thankfully, they were spread out a little bit, so that helped. So kind of a never-ending drumbeat of childcare. I'm going to go with insurance. All insurances. When my wife was working, we had a great health plan, and you do the calculation when she wants to stop working, and she's going to be a stay-at-home mom now. And I'm like, yeah, you know, insurance will go up a little bit. It'll be more, and it went from like $400 to $1,500. And then they canceled it. And so then we went through the exchange program, you know, and you start filling out all that stuff. They're like, great news. It's only $2,700 and a month. And then as long as you pay the first $18,000, then we'll cover the rest from there. So it's quite a bargain. So I was just blown away by the fact that happens to be the cost. In fact, this year we are back on a group plan that we started for our employees too. And even though it costs a little bit more money, the fact that we get to cover more people is worth it. So it's just, I don't know, it's just such a weird system that not only do you have to spend a lot every single month in order to guarantee your opportunity to spend a lot even more in the future, so that maybe if you need a kidney, it'll be covered. It's just bizarre.
Michelle Kagan, who's been on the show several times with their 101 series of books like Budgeting 101, Real Estate 101, Investing 101, said the same thing. She said health insurance. She said, I thought Cobra was crazy expensive. When it ended, premiums doubled.
Yeah, that was kind of our experience, I think.
Len, retiring, if and when you stop working for the man, you're attempting to do that early. How do you plan to cover health insurance, or do you work for a company where that will be bridged?
No, I am fortunate enough to, they cover, I mean, I have to pay obviously a premium, but it's much less than otherwise. Yeah. If it wasn't for that, Joe, there would be no way I could retire early. So very important.
Joe Van Voorhees said insurance, car, health, home, etc. as well. Matt G says trips and vacations. Didn't realize how expensive they were. Those don't have to be cheap, or those don't have to be expensive. OG.
I was going to say, if you want them to be fun. No, I'm just kidding. But
I love hiking, man.
I know, I'm kidding. It was a joke. Take a breath. So I made my kid the other day, my boys, when it was really nice, I said, hey, get up, get on your bicycle and go down to the donut store and get some donuts. And my son's like, I can't carry donuts all the way back and ride by. I said, no, not for me. Go get them for you. And here's some money. And I gave him a $20 bill. And he comes back and he goes, Dad, did you know donuts are $1 a piece? I said, yeah, I'm aware of how much that is. He's like, that's insane. And then when you get them, like you get 12 of them. I said, yep. And you get a coffee. I go, yep. He's like, it's like $15 for that. He said, yep. I said, so now do you understand when you eat half of one and it sits there and then we throw it out, how I'm just, out of my mind crazy? He's like, yeah, I'll never only eat half a donut again. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. We've been working on that concept with my son with packs of gum mostly right now because he's really into bubble gum because he's 5. $1 is a pack of gum, or 4 quarters more exactly.
God, and I can remember when a candy bar was 10 cents.
Oh boy. I was going to say, Angela, Len your son's 5. He's into gum. Len's 55. He's into gum. So it isn't going to change.
Yeah. That $1 is going to maybe be a little bit more reasonable when he's 55 than when he's 5. It's a good chunk of money for him now.
That's a good lesson. Danny said booze. And remember, Len, when Greg McFarland used to be on the show in his book, Control Your Cash, he talked about alcohol, and not just for your quality of life, getting rid of it, but how expensive it is.
Yeah, absolutely. You get rid of the alcohol and you get rid of even cigarettes. You get rid of those 2 items and bam. I mean, you'll save a lot of money.
Angela,
here's a tip.
Yeah.
Let me give you a quick tip, though. If you are going to buy alcohol, go get it at Rite Aid. It's a lot cheaper. It is.
still.
So we've actually been doing the exact opposite lately. Booze has been pretty expensive for us lately because we've been buying it completely from the local breweries and wineries and the wine shops. Part of supporting our local restaurants and our local community right now through COVID, instead of buying the grocery store stuff on sale, we're going directly to these local stores and restaurants, and they cost a little bit more money. But right now, we're both working and have the financial means. So we've been spending per bottle significantly more lately, but that goes for all kinds of takeout food and all of that right now. We have money right now, and so it feels right to be spending some of that.
Well, and I got to tell you, the wineries, what's the name of that town by you, Angela, with all of the wineries?
Woodinville.
Yeah, Woodinville. Oh, my goodness. What a fantastic place to go get drunk. It's in Woodinville.
Yeah, when the buses are running normally, we can walk down our hill, take the bus out to Woodinville, and then walk out to the wineries.
Yeah, it's some great places, too, some great stories out there. I found that one interesting. Thanks to everybody, by the way, who took part in that poll on Twitter. We see if we can get as many people involved in the show as we possibly can. Speaking of that, I think it's time we just end this thing. Fantastic show today, guys. Thanks a lot for participating. OG, what do you got going on this weekend, man?
It's the annual renewal. Every year, my wife sits to decide whether or not she's going to renew for a year. And fingers crossed, it's looking pretty good. We'll see. I'm feeling pretty confident that I'll get another year, but I'll let you know on Monday. Well, Tuesday. So the actual renewal will be on Monday. So she has a annually renewable contract. She's the only one that gets to vote. I'm pretty optimistic that she's going to keep me around another year. So
are you a felon, OG? Is that because you're a felon?
No, not at all. But I'm smart enough to know how this works. So I'm on my best behavior.
I can see you're sweating right now.
Oh, I haven't. This whole month it's like Christmas for kids. The whole month of December for kids, they make their beds and do the dishes without being asked and stuff like that. Oh, I've mowed the grass. I pull the weeds.
It's totally you.
I make dinner. I'm like, hey, look, I'm super helpful and I'm needed. I pay the bills on time. I do all this stuff. And then she forgets by July, so it's great.
Len, what's coming up at lenpenzo.com?
I've got a piece on when good personal finance practices go too far.
Oh.
And, we all try to do our best in the world of personal finance, but we can take it a little too far to the point of it's kind of absurd. And so I point out some of those.
Yeah, Angela's thinking you have good personal finance practices, then you start a blog, you end up on this damn podcast. That's when it goes too far. It's horrible. Angela, thanks for joining us and saving the show today.
Thanks for having me. It was fun.
I like the pause. That's my favorite part. Tell us what's coming up on the blog.
Gosh, I actually have completely lost my right ahead posts right now. And things have very much right now been about COVID and about Black Lives Matter and everything that is going on in this world. The best part about having a personal finance blog and a lifestyle blog, though any personal finance blog, is political, it is personal, it has impacts on every parts of our lives. And so my biggest thing right now is making sure that what I'm writing reflects what's going on in my community and in my country. And so I don't know what's coming next other than I will continue to amplify women's voices on my Wednesday roundups, and I'll be talking to everybody about, my gardening and my support of my local community on Fridays. And Mondays are kind of a wild card right now, but my goal is to acknowledge that things are not normal right now and address that the best that I can.
And by the way, for anybody who's out walking the dog or maybe just walking, head to treadlightlyretireearly.com. We'll have that link, by the way, in our show notes page at stackingbenjamins.com. Doug, you got it from here, man. What should we have learned today?
Really, Joe? I'm packing up the El Camino over here. You want me to stop and... Okay, fine. All right, I'll tell everybody what they should have learned. First, take a lesson from our roundtable. Worried that you don't understand someone? Be more curious about who they are and what they're feeling. Then you'll be able to find some empathy. Instead of shaming people when they aren't great at stacking Benjamins, maybe it's better to figure out how we can all help each other. Second, take a lesson from Andres Ugarte from Copilot. There are lots of tech tools out there that'll help you find a better way to manage your money and make more informed decisions. Make sure you keep trying options till you find the right fit for you. But the big takeaway? It went okay. It went fine. I told Joe's mom, and she started packing immediately and asked me to dance even. Dance! Turns out Joe's mom doesn't like this place anyways. She's sure her new friend from online bingo, Doris, pretty sure Doris cheats, and that this place is too damn hot. So it turns out, actually, it's Doug to the rescue yet again. I'm helping everybody out. Of course. Big thanks to Angela from Tread Lightly, Retire Early for joining us on the roundtable. You can find Angela at treadlightlyretireearly.com, or we'll have a link on our show notes page at stackingbenjamins.com. Also, thanks to Andres Ugarte, the co-founder of Copilot, for showing off how he tracks his accounts. You can check it out at copilot.money or on our show notes page at stackingbenjamins.com. Len Penzo appears courtesy of lenpenzo.com and thepersistentitch.com. This show is created by Joe Saul-Sehy, produced by Karen Rapine, and engineered by the amazing Steve Stewart. Online, visit us on Twitter at SBenjaminsCast or on our Facebook page. I'm Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug, and it appears I've fallen and I can't get up. SB Podcasts may receive payment on the show from sponsors and guests in the form of books, giveaway items, discounts, or other remunerations. That's a big word. There's no way you take advice from these dorks, but like Joe's mom always says, don't take advice from people you don't know. This show is for entertainment purposes only, and before making any financial decisions, consult with a real financial advisor.
Welcome to the after show. This is the part of the show that doesn't exist. What happens here stays here. And if you're here for financial talk, might be a good time to say goodbye. Just catch us next week. But I'm wondering about this. You know, we talked a little bit about curiosity earlier, and I can think of some times when little curiosity might have helped me create a little better empathy to maybe not stick my foot in my mouth. And I was wondering if there was a time when you could have been a little more curious and it might have helped. And specifically what I'm thinking about was a time that I got invited. I was very lucky. I got invited to a Detroit Pistons basketball game, and I was sitting in the second row. And it was amazing, by the way. These are seats that I could never afford to buy on my own. Just phenomenal. And it was in the years when a player named Grant Hill used to play, and he had these new sneakers called Fila Hills. They look like slippers with a blue line right up the middle of them. And I was with the gentleman that invited me and another friend, and we sat and we were ripping these shoes. We're just ripping these shoes and how bad they look. They were brand new like that week. They were so weird looking. I just kept saying, you know, they're kind of weird looking. They're just, man, I don't know. And he would inbounds right in front of us. And I just stared at his shoes. I'm like, man, I don't know. I don't know if I like them. And finally, by the end of the third quarter, I'd had a bunch of liquid courage, we'll call it. And I just said to my buddies, we're laughing, and I said, no, I've decided, guys, really hate the shoes. Can't stand the shoes. You think he gets paid to wear them, though? And the dude sitting right in front of me, like literally, I've been staring at his head the whole game, turns around, his face is all red, and he shoves a card in my face and goes, hell yeah, he gets paid to wear them. And if you ever want to know how much, why don't you call me? And it was the Fila rep, the dude who made the shoe, as I ripped him the entire game, sitting right in front of me. Not a great day to be me. Maybe a little more empathy, a little more curiosity about who might have been sitting around me. Anybody ever stick their foot in their mouth that way? Len? Why'd I go to Len? Len, you ever stick your foot in your mouth?
I think I do that almost daily on this podcast that I'm here. Joe, I'm not going to follow that. I mean, you're going to ask me to follow that story. I mean, that's like, the same thing when you ask Paula, hey, Paula, you make me follow Paula on her list of what's going on at her blog versus what's going on at mine. No, I'm not going to play that game, Joe. Not today.
It's like that Brian Regan joke. When's the baby due? What baby? Oh boy. Not good. Angela, you've never stuck your foot in your mouth, I'm sure.
Clearly, never, ever. Probably the biggest thing is not necessarily one specific story, but I cannot stand to lie to people, even when sometimes maybe a white lie would be the best course of action. When I'm asked point blank for certain opinions, I give them. And those friends I have that have stuck around love me for it, but I know that I've definitely made some people unhappy or uncomfortable with me, because if you're going to hear something from me, it's going to be the truth.
Do you do that at a friend's house when they invite you over for dinner and they ask you how you like dinner and it really wasn't that good? Do you go,
yeah, actually. So the woman who was my maid of honor, actually, this was probably 7 or 8 years ago. I was at her house and she had baked these like lavender cupcakes or something, and I hate lavender in food, and I told her, these would be great if it wasn't for the lavender. And she definitely still reminds me of that fact, that I couldn't have just been like, yeah, these are really good. I was like, yeah, I hate them.
That's good. She stuck with you though. That's good news.
Yeah, she has. So I don't know if that's a good trait or a bad trait that you're going to hear from me. I mean, my family has learned that, with giving me gifts, if it's something I don't actually want, I will tell them. So perhaps maybe a little bit too much radical honesty, but I would rather err on that side of things.
No pressure buying you gifts at all. Yeah.
Well, once you buy me a good one and I tell you, I really, really mean it.
Yeah. We get you 15 pairs of those, whatever it is. OG?
It's like when you play the game Clue and you just see like all the faces that are there, right? Like the thousands of faces, and you're trying to decide which one of those is the person. Or, you know what I'm talking about, like the whodunit thing. Maybe it's not Clue. What's the game that has all the faces pop up and you have to like knock them down?
Oh, yeah. What's the name of the game? Guess Who.
Guess Who. There you go. It's kind of like Clue. Guess Who. So it's got the thousands of faces. Which example of me putting my foot in my mouth? And they're all running together, so I can't actually create a compelling story. But I know when I was dating my wife, so this is my anniversary weekend, and we've been married 18 years, and we were together for 5 years before that. For the better part of the first, I want to say maybe 4 or 5 months that we were dating, I thought her name was Alyssa instead of Lissa. She knows that story. Her friend introduced us, and her friend said, I worked with her friend. Her friend said, hey, you should hang out with my friend. She's cute and you guys would get along. And I said, no, that's really not for me. She's like, no, you should. And I said, well, if she wants to call me, she can. It's the only name in the phone book. Like total just stupid stuff like that. Like total, like,
yeah.
What are you doing?
And she's still married you.
Yeah. Well, she would tell the story that she started actually, there was 2 names in the phone book. I forgot my uncle lived in town. So there's like two, my parents' phone number and then my uncle's, and she picked the wrong one. She's like, I got halfway, I dialed half the number. I was like, screw this. If he doesn't even want to give me his phone number, so like, there's like just a constant series of me trying to figure out ways to not be in her life. And then, for some reason she stuck with it,
That's emotional courage on her part, going back to that.
And now she's stuck.
The name game just reminds me, and I won't tell the whole story, but I think everybody will know where this is going. My daughter's soccer team, I was sure this other dad on the team that his name was Dick. And it turned out I was wrong.
Yep.
That was a bad day. I think we'll leave it there. Yeah, it turned out his name was Mark. But I've been calling him
Mark, Dick. It's all the,
But Mark never told me his name wasn't Dick. So I would sit down to him every day and I go, "Hey, Dick." I could never figure out why he would go, "How are you, I just thought he was being.
No, it's Joe.
I just thought he was being rude, and then I'm standing behind him, in line. At his daughter and my daughter were in the same class, and I'm standing behind him at the Scholastic Book Fair after a parent-teacher conference, and it's back in the days people had checkbooks out to buy their do their PTA donation thing, and I was always interested when clients would give me checks like the art. Some people would have like. And his checks like had Bugs Bunny on him or something as I saw him flash it. And so I just kind of look over his shoulder while I'm standing right behind him. I've known this guy for, I'm going to say a good 2 years. I've been calling him Dick. And I look over his shoulder and it says Mark and Sue. And then their last name. And I'm like, oh my God. And he never called.
Did you just casually start calling him Mark?
Yes, I just casually launched it.
A beat.
I called him Mark as many times in the next hour as I've ever called anybody by their first name. Hey, Mark, like I've known all along your name's Mark. But why the hell did I think his name? What I could have thought his name was Bill or Jim or Frank, but I decided his name was Dick. Anyway.